Every person selling you passive income is either already rich or trying to get rich by selling it to you. I want you to think about the last time you saw a passive income video. Thumbnail with a guy on a yacht. Title says, How I Make $10,000 a Month While I Sleep. 17 income streams. Never works a real job. Started from nothing. Maybe you watched it. Maybe you took notes. Maybe you felt a mix of inspiration and something that felt a little like shame, because you're still working a regular job and nothing is passive yet. Today I'm going to tell you why that feeling was manufactured and why the entire concept of passive income, as it's sold to beginners, is one of the most damaging financial myths in circulation right now. What's up? I'm Leonidas, and before you click off, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying passive income doesn't exist. It does. I'm not saying you can't eventually build income that works while you sleep. You can. What I'm saying is this. For where you are right now, passive income is the wrong target, and chasing it is costing you time, money, and momentum that you cannot afford to lose. This video is about what you should actually be focused on, and why, so that when passive income does become available to you, you're positioned to actually have it. Nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. This is educational content based on personal finance and business principles. Your situation is unique. Do your own research and consult a professional for decisions specific to your circumstances. Now let's get into it. Let's start by understanding what the passive income content machine actually is. There is an entire industry worth billions of dollars built around selling the dream of passive income to people who don't have it yet. YouTube channels, courses, ebooks, coaching programs, masterclasses, affiliate recommendations, dropshipping tutorials, print-on-demand guides, dividend investing courses, real estate syndications for beginners. The products vary. The pitch is always the same. You can make money while you sleep. You can escape the 9 to 5. You can have freedom. And the way to get there is, conveniently, by purchasing this thing being sold to you right now. The primary passive income of most passive income gurus is not their investment portfolio, their rental properties, or their digital products. It is the course they sell to people who want to build passive income. The most reliable income stream for most people teaching passive income is the audience of people trying to learn passive income. Here's the second issue, and this one is more subtle. The phrase passive income is almost never defined honestly in the content that sells it. True passive income, the kind that actually runs without your ongoing labor, requires one of two things: either a significant amount of capital invested in assets that generate returns, or a significant amount of prior work that created a system or asset that now produces revenue with minimal maintenance. Neither of those things exists at the beginning. Capital takes time to accumulate. Systems take time to build. Prior work means prior work. Every passive income stream has an active phase. Dividend investing requires years of saving and investing before dividends become meaningful. Rental income requires a down payment, a purchase, management, and maintenance. Digital products require creation, marketing, and ongoing traffic. The passive part comes later, always after significant upfront input. What gets sold to beginners as passive income is almost always one of three things. Number one, a low probability opportunity dressed up as a system. Dropshipping, print on demand, affiliate marketing, these can work, but the success rate is low, the learning curve is steep, and the returns for most beginners are minimal to zero. Number two, an activity that is just a job, but framed romantically. Freelancing is not passive income. Selling on Etsy is not passive income. Running a social media account is not passive income. These are active income streams, which is fine, but calling them passive is misleading. Number three, A genuine long-term wealth building strategy like index fund investing that has been front-loaded with unrealistic timelines and inflated return expectations to make it sound more exciting than it actually is in the short term. Here is the part that actually damages people, and why I take this seriously enough to make a video about it. When a young man, especially one with limited income and limited capital, focuses his energy on building passive income before he has the foundation to support it, he typically does two things. One, he spends money on courses, tools, and experiments that don't produce meaningful returns at his current stage, not because the strategies are necessarily wrong, but because they require capital or audience or systems he hasn't built yet. Two, he neglects the thing that would actually change his financial situation fastest, which is increasing his active income, building core financial skills, and accumulating enough capital that passive strategies become viable. The irony, the fastest path to passive income is to stop chasing passive income and focus entirely on active income first. The capital you build from active income is the fuel that makes passive income possible. I want to name who this specifically damages because I want you to recognize if this is your situation. This hurts most the guy who is 22 to 28, making between $30,000 and $50,000 a year, feeling like that income is not enough and that there must be a faster way. He watches the content. He feels the gap between where he is and where the gurus seem to be. He invests in a course or a system. He puts in time and effort. The results are minimal. He concludes he's doing something wrong, rather than concluding the timing was wrong. He tries something else. Same result. The cycle repeats. He stays exactly where he started financially, except now he spent hundreds or thousands of dollars and lost months of time. The belief that you need a passive income stream before you've built an active income foundation is not a strategy. It is an escape fantasy, and escape fantasies are expensive. Let me show you why this is not just philosophical, it's mathematical. The most widely cited passive income strategy for beginners is dividend investing through index funds or dividend-focused ETFs. A reasonable long-term dividend yield on a diversified portfolio is somewhere in the range of 2 to 4% annually. Let's use 3% as a conservative working number. To generate $500 per month in passive dividend income at 3%, you need $200,000 invested. $200,000. Now, how long does it take to accumulate $200,000 from a starting point of zero, investing $500 per month? At a 7% average annual return, roughly 22 years. If you can invest $1,000 per month, roughly 14 years. If you can invest $2,000 per month, roughly 8 years. The single most powerful variable in how fast you reach passive income is not the investment strategy you choose. It is the monthly contribution amount, and contribution amount is directly determined by active income minus expenses. More active income, higher contributions, faster timeline to passive income. This is not complicated, but it is the part the passive income industry does not want you to focus on, because they cannot sell you a course about working harder at your job. Active income is any income that requires your direct time and labor. Your job, your freelance work, a service you provide, overtime, a side hustle that you actively run. It is not glamorous. The passive income gurus will not make videos about it because it doesn't make people feel like they're escaping anything. It is just work for money. But here is what active income does that no passive strategy can replicate at the beginning. It generates reliable, predictable cash flow right now. It can be increased in the short term through skill development, negotiation, additional hours, or additional clients. It compounds into capital when combined with disciplined spending. And capital is the raw material that every passive income strategy runs on. The men who build genuine passive income do not skip the active income phase. They master it. They maximize it. They squeeze every dollar from it. Then they deploy that capital into real assets that generate real returns. In that order. Always in that order. There's a second reason active income comes first that most people miss entirely. Building income, whether active or passive, requires real skills. Financial literacy, sales, marketing, operations, management, negotiation, communication, technical execution in some domain. These skills don't develop while you're watching courses about passive income. They develop through the friction of actively trying to generate income, failing, adjusting, and succeeding. A man who has spent 3 years grinding in sales, managing clients, solving real problems for real people, has built a skill set that transfers to almost any income-generating activity he chooses later. A man who has spent 3 years jumping between passive income strategies without the capital to make them viable has built almost nothing transferable. Skills are the most portable asset you own. They travel with you between jobs, industries, and income models. No market crash takes them. No employer can lay them off. Build skills first. Deploy capital second. Let me give you the most powerful version of the active income argument. Compounding is often talked about in terms of investment returns. Your money earning returns on its returns over time. That is real, and it matters. But the more powerful and more immediate version of compounding for someone under 30 is skill and income compounding. Here's what that looks like. Year 1, you develop a high-value skill. Maybe that's a technical certification, a sales methodology, a trade, coding, a language. Your income goes from $35,000 to $42,000. Year 2, you leverage that skill in a better position. Income goes to $52,000. You're now saving $800 a month. That goes into investments. Year 3, you've built a track record, you negotiate, you move laterally into a higher paying role or start a side service. Income approaches $65,000. You're investing $1,500 per month. Year 4 and 5, you continue the same process. Skills compound into opportunities. Opportunities compound into income. Income compounds into capital. Capital eventually produces passive returns. Nobody teaches this path because it requires patience, discipline, and real work. It does not make a good thumbnail, but it is the actual path that the majority of financially independent people walked, not a viral passive income strategy. I want to spend a few minutes being precise about what's actually happening in the passive income content space, because understanding the incentive structure matters. Here is the business model, plainly stated. Step 1. Build an audience by documenting or fabricating financial success, or by aggregating other people's success stories. Step 2. Monetize that audience by selling a product, usually a course, a coaching program, an ebook, or an affiliate recommendation that teaches the audience how to replicate that success. Step 3. The revenue from Step 2 funds the lifestyle that appears in the content of Step 1, which attracts more audience, which funds more sales in Step 2. The loop is self-sustaining as long as the audience believes the lifestyle is a result of the strategy being taught, rather than a result of the audience purchasing the strategy. The passive income is real. It just belongs to the person selling the course, not to the person buying it. You are the income stream. Understanding that changes how you evaluate every piece of financial content you consume. There's a specific cognitive trap that makes this content so persuasive, and it's called survivorship bias. When you watch 10 passive income success stories in a week, 10 people who built dropshipping businesses, or rental portfolios, or YouTube channels, your brain begins to treat success as the expected outcome. But you are not seeing the thousands of people who attempted the same strategy and generated nothing. They didn't make a video about it. There is no content about the guy who spent $4,000 on a Shopify store that made $200 total. You only see the wins. The algorithm shows you wins, because wins perform. Your brain calibrates its expectations based on a fundamentally non-representative sample. The success rate for most beginner passive income strategies, dropshipping, affiliate marketing, print on demand, day trading, when studied rigorously, is very low for people starting with limited capital and limited prior business experience. The exceptions are real. They are not the average. Here's something worth noting about the people who do succeed with these strategies. They almost always have one or more of the following advantages. Prior capital. They could afford to test, fail, learn, and try again without going broke in the process. A failed $2,000 experiment is a lesson when you have $20,000 in savings. It's a crisis when you have nothing. Prior skills. The dropshipping success stories are usually people who already had marketing skills, copywriting skills, or technical skills from a previous active income career. They didn't learn the passive strategy and the underlying skills simultaneously. Prior network, access to suppliers, investors, audiences, or mentors who created leverage that a true beginner starting cold does not have. Time. They had the financial runway to operate at a loss or break even for 12 to 24 months while the strategy matured. The story being sold is, I started with nothing and built passive income. The reality is almost always, I started with skills, capital, network, or time, and built passive income. Those are not the same starting conditions. Let me give you a practical framework for filtering financial content so you stop being manipulated by it. Question 1. What is this person's actual income source right now? If it's primarily the content and the course, understand that the strategy being taught is serving the teacher more reliably than it's serving the students. Question 2. What did they have before they started? Prior skills, capital, connections, time. If the answer isn't disclosed, assume it was significant. Question 3. What is the realistic success rate for a beginner with no capital doing this strategy today? Not the best case, the average case. If that information isn't provided, seek it out independently. Question 4. What would this money and time do for me if I put it toward active income development instead? That is always the comparison you should be making. High-quality financial content will answer these questions or acknowledge the uncertainty. Low-quality content will avoid them. All right, I've spent the first part of this video telling you what doesn't work and why. That matters, because clarity on what to avoid is half the strategy. But I want to spend the second half of this video on what the actual path looks like. Not the fantasy version, the real one. The one that most people who have genuinely built passive income actually walked, even if they don't talk about it that way. There are 3 phases. They don't overlap cleanly. Each one has a specific job, and the mistake most people make is trying to run all 3 phases simultaneously, or skipping to phase 3 without completing phase 1. Phase 1. Build active income. Maximize and stabilize. Timeline. Now through your first financial stability milestone. Your one job in phase 1 is to make your active income as high and as stable as possible. This means skill development in your primary income area. It means negotiating your compensation. It means reducing unnecessary expenses so the gap between income and expenses, your savings rate, is as large as possible. It means building an emergency fund so you are not one bad month away from crisis. Phase 1 is not glamorous. It is foundational. It is the phase that almost no passive income content talks about, because it doesn't involve buying anything. Phase 2, deploy capital. Boring, consistent, long-term timeline. Once emergency fund is built and income is stable. Phase 2 begins when you have a financial foundation and surplus income to deploy. Your job in Phase 2 is to automate consistent contributions into long-term investment vehicles, index funds, retirement accounts, potentially real estate if your capital and knowledge reach that point. This phase is deliberately slow and boring. No timing the market, no chasing hot assets, no switching strategies based on what's performing this quarter. You pick a sensible, diversified approach, automate it, and leave it alone. This phase runs in the background while you continue maximizing active income in phase one. It is not exciting. It is the most reliable wealth building mechanism that exists for the majority of people. Phase 3. Activate passive streams from a position of strength timeline, once you have genuine capital and skills to deploy. Phase 3 is where passive income strategies actually make sense, not because the strategies changed, but because you changed. You now have capital to invest meaningfully. You have skills to execute without a steep learning curve. You have an emergency fund, so a failed experiment is a lesson, not a catastrophe. You have financial runway to let a strategy mature without panic selling or abandoning it too early. The passive strategies that were dangerous for you in phase 1 are now appropriate in phase 3 because the context has changed entirely. The same strategy at different stages of financial development produces entirely different outcomes. I want to be specific about what phase 1 looks like in practice, because maximize your active income can sound abstract. Here is what it means concretely. First, know your exact take-home income and your exact fixed expenses. Most people have a vague idea of both. You need the exact numbers. You cannot optimize what you cannot measure. Second, identify the skill that is most directly connected to your income ceiling in your current role or field. Not the skill you find most interesting, the one that moves the income number. Invest time in developing that skill aggressively in the next 6 to 12 months. Third, build your emergency fund before anything else. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account. This is not optional. It is the foundation that makes every subsequent decision less desperate and therefore better. Fourth, once the emergency fund is built, automate a contribution to an investment account every payday, even if it starts at $50. The habit and the infrastructure matter more than the amount at this stage. Fifth, revisit your compensation annually, not a review time, annually with data. What is your role paying at other companies in your market? What would it cost your employer to replace you? What skills have you built in the past year that increase your value? Have this conversation prepared and documented. These 5 actions, done consistently for 2 to 4 years, will put you in a better financial position than almost any passive income strategy available to someone with limited starting capital. Not because they're magic, because they're compounding in the right direction. I want to address something that a lot of guys in this audience are thinking right now. What if my active income ceiling is low? What if I'm in a field that doesn't pay well? Or I don't have a degree? Or the job market in my area is limited? That's a real constraint, and I don't want to dismiss it. But here's what I want you to notice about that framing. When you say, my income ceiling is low, you're usually describing your current ceiling, in your current role, in your current location, with your current skills. Very few of those things are actually fixed. Trades pay extremely well, and most have minimal credential barriers. Plumbing, electrical, HVAC, welding, skilled tradespeople in most U.S. markets are in high demand and earn 6 figures. Sales has no degree requirement and no income ceiling. If you can generate revenue for a company, they will pay you a percentage of that revenue. That percentage can be substantial. Technology, specifically coding, cloud infrastructure, cybersecurity, data, has significant self-taught pathways with genuine income potential. Remote work has expanded the addressable job market for many roles from your local area to anywhere in the country, which dramatically changes the wage floor for many fields. The income ceiling you're seeing is almost always the ceiling of your current situation, not the ceiling of your potential. Changing one variable, the skill you offer, the market you're in, the role you're targeting, can move that ceiling significantly. I've been spending this video warning you away from passive income. Let me tell you when it actually makes sense. so you have a concrete target to work toward. Passive income through dividend investing makes sense when you have a meaningful investment portfolio, generally above $50,000, and you have a long enough time horizon to let compounding do its work without needing to pull the money. Passive income through real estate makes sense when you have a down payment, a credit profile strong enough to secure financing at reasonable rates, the knowledge to evaluate a property, and the capital reserves to handle maintenance and vacancy without going into financial distress. Passive income through a digital product or content platform makes sense when you have an existing skill or knowledge base that provides genuine value, the marketing skills to reach an audience, and ideally an existing audience or distribution channel, and you are doing it as a project on top of the stable income base, not as an escape from one. None of these require you to be wealthy already, but all of them require you to have completed meaningful work in the active income phase first. That's the honest version of the timeline. Now, here's the nuance I want to add, because I don't want you to leave this video thinking, never build a side income until I'm rich. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the side income you build right now should be active side income, not passive. And here's why that distinction matters enormously. Active side income, freelancing, a service business, gig work, selling a skill, generates cash now, this week, this month. It does not require capital you don't have. It does not require an audience you haven't built. It requires only time, skill, and effort, all of which you have. And the right use of that active side income is not lifestyle expansion. It is contribution acceleration. Every dollar from a side hustle that goes into your investment account shortens your phase 2 timeline. Example: you are making $40,000 a year at your primary job. You build a weekend freelance service, editing, design, tutoring, handyman work, whatever is honest to your skills. That generates an extra $400 to $600 a month. That $1,200 annually, invested consistently over 10 years at a 7% average return, adds approximately $22,000 to your net worth. Before your primary investments, before any career income growth, it is not passive, but it is real. And it is building the capital base that passive income eventually runs on. The best side income strategy for someone in phase 1 is the one that generates the most cash in the least time, with the least upfront capital. And that is almost always an active service, not a passive product. Do the active work now. Build passive income later. I want to take a minute to explain why I'm making this video, because it goes against the grain of almost every other financial content show you will find. Most financial YouTube content is optimized for watch time and monetization, which means the incentive is to tell you what you want to hear, that there is a shortcut, that you can escape your current situation faster than you think, that the reason you're not there yet is just that you haven't found the right strategy. That content performs well. People click on it, they feel hopeful, they come back. But it does not make them financially better off, and over time, it makes them worse off, because they chase strategies that aren't appropriate for their stage. They spend money on courses that don't move the needle, and they lose years they could have spent building the real foundation. I would rather lose your click than mislead you. That means telling you things that are harder to hear. That passive income is real, but it comes after active income, not instead of it. That building wealth takes years of consistent, unglamorous behavior. That there is no shortcut that the vast majority of people who take it actually benefit from. Those things are harder to hear. They don't make good thumbnails, but they are the truth. And the truth is what will actually move your situation. One action I want you to take after this video. Do not buy a passive income course. Not this week. Instead, spend 1 hour writing down your current active income number, your fixed expenses, and the gap between them. That gap is your financial leverage. That is the number we are going to grow. Start there. Everything else follows. If this video gave you something real to think about, Drop a comment. Tell me where you are in the three phases. I read them. I'm Leonidas. Build the foundation.